Blue and red lights flash across the screen. Sirens wail in the background, echoing against the night as cameras capture every chaotic second. The scene cuts sharply. Kirk Frost strapped to a gurney, EMTs rushing him toward the ambulance. His face pale, his body motionless. Just steps away, Rashida collapses in tears, her cries piercing through the noise. Cast members shout, security scrambles, and paparazzi cameras pop like firecrackers. The footage plays raw, unfiltered. This isn't just reality TV drama. This feels like the darkest moment in love and hip-hop Atlanta history. Viewers around the world are left frozen, asking the same question. How did it come to this? The cold open doesn't slow down. Producers cut in flashes of the club, broken glass on the floor, bloodstains by the velvet rope, and a chilling voiceover teases the night's tragic turn. One decision, one grudge, one blow that changed everything. By the time the title card drops, the audience is already hooked. They've seen Kirk rush to the hospital, Rashida collapsing, and Jock standing at the center of it all. This isn't just another episode, it's a breaking point. Before the chaos, the night at Club Eclipse looked like pure Atlanta luxury. Neon lights bounced off crystal chandeliers, the bass thumped so hard it shook the floor, and bottles of champagne rained down like confetti. The cast filled VIP booths dressed sharp, laughing, clinking glasses. On the surface, it was just another night of celebration. But anyone watching closely could feel it, tension buzzing under the glitter. Yung Joc walked into the club with his usual swagger, rocking designer shades even in the dark. Cameras caught his entrance like a movie star stepping onto the red carpet. People cheered, but his eyes weren't on the fans. They locked onto one man, Kirk Frost. Kirk was already seated in VIP, calm but alert. His arm draped around Rashida, who leaned close, whispering to him over the music. To most, it looked like a power couple enjoying the night. But to Jock, it looked like betrayal. Insiders whispered about business deals gone wrong, investments that turned into losses, and a grudge Jock wasn't ready to let go of. As the night went on, Jock kept circling the VIP, sending signals with his body language. He ordered bottle after bottle, laughing loud, flashing stacks of cash, making sure Kirk saw it. Meanwhile, Kirk stayed composed, sipping slowly, barely reacting. That calmness, that refusal to acknowledge him, only fueled Jock's anger. The cameras cut between the two men like a boxing match before the first punch. Each glance was a jab, each smirk was a warning. Castmates tried to play peacemakers, cracking jokes, changing the subject, but the tension couldn't be drowned out by music or champagne. Something was building, something everyone in that club could feel. By midnight, the air was thick with more than smoke and perfume. The luxury vibe had shifted into unease. Security stayed close. Producers whispered nervously. Viewers at home, watching it all unfold, knew one thing. This wasn't going to end with just words. The energy inside Club Eclipse shifted the second Jock made his way toward the VIP. His swagger was no longer playful. Every step he took dripped with tension. The crowd sensed it. Conversations hushed, cameras pivoted, and even the music blasting through the speakers seemed to fade as people watched him close in on Kirk Frost. Rashida's eyes widened when she saw Jock pushing past the velvet rope. She clutched Kirk's arm tightly, whispering something urgent, but Kirk held his composure. He simply adjusted his jacket and sat upright, refusing to flinch. Jock leaned over the table, towering just inches from Kirk. His voice cut through the noise. "You think I forgot what you pulled? You think it's sweet?" His words were laced with venom, each syllable dripping with unfinished business. Kirk looked up calmly, shaking his head. "This ain't the place, man. Chill out." But that dismissive tone was gasoline on a fire Jock had been holding in for months. The back and forth began. Jock accused Kirk of betrayal, of disrespect, of making moves behind his back. Kirk countered with calm denial, refusing to rise to the bait. Their voices grew louder. Drinks stopped flowing. Laughter died out. All eyes in the club locked on them. Rashida pleaded with Jock to let it go, her voice trembling. Castmates slid in, trying to diffuse the heat, but every attempt only seemed to make Jock more determined. Then, the breaking point. Jock slammed his glass onto the table, shattering it into jagged shards. The sound cut the room like a gunshot. Gasps echoed through the VIP as security rushed forward, but Kirk had already stood up. Now the two men were face to face, chests nearly touching, breaths heavy. The verbal jabs turned to shoves. Each push grew harder. The crowd pressed closer, phones in the air, recording every second. In that moment, it was clear. This wasn't going to stay verbal. The storm everyone felt brewing had arrived. Tension snapped into chaos, and the first move was about to be made. The clash exploded in a single instant. Jock's fist swung hard, connecting squarely with Kirk's jaw. The crack of bone against knuckle was loud enough to cut through the music. Gasps turned into screams as Kirk stumbled backward, crashing into the VIP table. Bottles toppled over, champagne spraying like fireworks across the shocked crowd. Rashida let out a shriek, scrambling to her husband's side. But Jock wasn't done. Security rushed forward, but Jock fought through them, throwing another punch that grazed Kirk's temple. The force sent him sprawling to the floor, glasses and plates smashing around him. The club erupted into chaos. Women screamed, heels clattering as they ran. Men shoved each other trying to get out of the way. The bass-heavy track still blared from the DJ booth, clashing horribly with the panicked screams, until someone yanked the sound down. Kirk tried to get up, but his legs wobbled. Rashida grabbed his arm, sobbing, begging him to stay down. Jock, red-faced and raging, shoved past 2 security guards before 3 more finally tackled him from behind. They wrestled him to the ground, arms flailing, curses flying. The once celebratory night had transformed into pure chaos. People in the crowd pulled out phones, documenting every second. Flash after flash lit up the room as shouts of "Call 911" rang out. One producer screamed into a headset, demanding paramedics immediately. Within minutes, flashing red lights painted the club walls as EMTs stormed in with a stretcher. The sight of medical uniforms brought a chilling silence across the room. Kirk lay dazed, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. His eyes fluttered, half-conscious as Rashida sobbed uncontrollably, clutching his hand. EMTs checked his vitals, strapping him onto the gurney as she begged them to save him. Cameras caught her collapse, her body shaking as friends held her up. This wasn't a storyline. This was terrifyingly real. Meanwhile, Jock roared from across the room, restrained by 5 men, his voice hoarse from yelling. He did this to himself. He deserved it. The words only deepened the horror. Security dragged him toward the exit as police arrived, cuffing him while flashes from paparazzi captured every second. The paramedics wheeled Kirk out swiftly, navigating through a shaken crowd. The once glamorous nightclub floor was now littered with broken bottles, spilled drinks, and bloodstains, a crime scene masquerading as a party. Outside, the chaos continued. Fans and paparazzi swarmed as Kirk was loaded into the ambulance. Rashida, hysterical, had to be helped inside with him. The sirens wailed as the vehicle sped away into the night, lights cutting through the Atlanta streets. Back inside, the cast stood frozen. No one knew what to say. Producers argued in hushed tones, phones buzzing nonstop as word of the attack spread. What began as a night of glitz had ended in violence so raw, so shocking, that it promised to change the entire dynamic of love and hip-hop Atlanta forever. The cameras kept rolling. Every tear, every scream, every second of that bloody night was captured. And as Jock was shoved into a squad car, his head hung low but his rage still burning, the world knew this was no ordinary fight. This was the moment everything unraveled. This was the moment everything unraveled. The trial opened to a packed courtroom. Reporters lined the back rows, sketch artists scribbled furiously, and cameras swarmed outside the courthouse. Inside, tension was suffocating. The prosecution wasted no time, opening with the viral club footage. Played on the big screen, it showed Jock's fist connecting with Kirk's jaw, bottles shattering, and Rashida's scream echoing. Gasps rippled through the jury as the video replayed in slow motion. The prosecution's narrative was clear. Jock acted with rage, endangering not only Kirk, but everyone in the club. Witnesses testified to the chaos, recounting screams, blood, and panic. Then came Rashida. Her voice cracked as she described watching her husband collapse, begging EMTs not to let him die. Tears streamed down her face as she clutched tissues, forcing the jury to confront her raw pain. The defense countered with their own strategy. They painted Kirk as dismissive, claiming his calmness had been condescending, designed to provoke Jock. They argued Jock acted out of momentary passion, not premeditation. Jock himself eventually took the stand, his voice low but steady. "I lost control. I was wrong. But I'm not a monster," he admitted, eyes locked on the jury. Finally, Kirk testified. Though still recovering, he told the court he never wanted things to reach this point. His words carried weight, measured, steady, but filled with hurt. By the time testimonies closed, the courtroom sat in silence. The jury had heard pain, anger, regret, and confession. Now, the fate of both men rested in their hands. After weeks of testimonies, evidence, and endless media coverage, the jury finally returned to the courtroom. The atmosphere was tense, every seat filled with press, cast members, and anxious fans waiting for the outcome. When the four-person stood, silence fell. The words rang out clearly. "We, the jury, find the defendant." "Guilty!" Gasps erupted from the gallery. Jock closed his eyes, shaking his head slowly as the weight of the verdict sank in. The judge moved swiftly to sentencing. Given the severity of the attack, Jock was handed a multi-year sentence with mandatory anger management and restitution payments to Kirk and Rashida. The gavel struck, sealing his fate. Rashida gripped Kirk's hand tightly, tears streaming. Not of fear this time, but of vindication. Kirk sat quietly, expression unreadable, though relief flickered across his tired eyes. Reactions outside were immediate and explosive. Fans flooded timelines with divided responses. Some celebrated justice served, others mourned Jock's downfall. Castmates issued statements, some supporting Kirk and Rashida, others struggling to balance loyalty with shock. Industry insiders predicted the verdict would reshape the franchise forever. Producers faced the biggest crisis of all, deciding how to move forward without one of their most polarizing stars. VH1 executives released a statement, promising to prioritize safety and accountability. But speculation swirled about whether viewers would stay loyal to a show now, forever scarred by violence. The verdict didn't just close a trial, it sent shockwaves across the culture. Jock's legacy was rewritten in a courtroom. Kirk and Rashida walked away with justice, but also scars that could never fully heal. The world watched, realizing this wasn't just television anymore. It was real life with consequences that couldn't be edited away. In the weeks following the verdict, Kirk focused on recovery. Physically, he endured therapy sessions, working to regain his strength. Emotionally, the trauma lingered. Flashes of the night haunted him, but his determination to push forward remained. Rashida stood by him every step, vowing justice wasn't just about the sentence, but about reclaiming their peace and rebuilding their lives. Jock, meanwhile, faced a different reality. His bookings dried up, sponsors cut ties, and his once charismatic image was replaced with mugshots and courtroom headlines. For a man once celebrated in Atlanta's nightlife, the fall was staggering. The franchise itself reached a crossroads. Fans debated whether the show had gone too far, whether the blurred line between entertainment and reality had cost too much. Producers hinted at changes, but the shadow of that night at Club Eclipse hung heavy. In the end, one truth remained undeniable. A single night of rage reshaped lives, careers, and an entire television empire. Love and hip-hop Atlanta would never be the same again. The sirens split the night as Kirk was rushed out of Club Eclipse and into the back of an ambulance. Rashida clung to him, refusing to let go even as EMTs urged her to step aside. Her makeup was streaked with tears, her voice hoarse from crying. "Please don't let him die!" she begged, gripping his hand as they worked furiously to stabilize him. The flashing red and blue lights painted her face in a blur of panic. Inside the ambulance, the chaos continued. EMTs checked his pulse, inserted an IV, and placed an oxygen mask over his face. Kirk's breathing was shallow, his eyelids flickering open for only brief seconds before sliding shut again. The monitor beeped steadily, each sound echoing like a countdown. Rashida sat pressed against the wall, whispering prayers, her hands trembling as she held onto his leg. The camera captured every moment, raw and unfiltered. The ride through Atlanta streets felt endless. Traffic lights blurred past the tinted windows as the sirens wailed. Rashida pleaded with Kirk to stay awake. "Stay with me, baby. Don't close your eyes." An EMT reassured her, but his serious tone made it clear. Kirk's condition was critical. When the ambulance pulled up to the hospital, security held back the swelling crowd of paparazzi and fans who had already gathered after hearing the news. Reporters shouted questions, flashes lit the night, but the only thing that mattered was getting Kirk inside. The stretcher rolled quickly through the emergency room doors, Rashida still gripping his hand until nurses forced her to step back. She collapsed into a chair in the waiting area, surrounded by castmates trying to comfort her. Doctors rushed Kirk into trauma care, curtains closing as machines beeped and staff shouted medical terms. For Rashida, every second felt like an eternity. She buried her face in her hands, sobbing, repeating the same words over and over. "Don't take him from me." The producer's cameras zoomed in, capturing the rawest moment of the night. The scene left viewers gripped with dread. Kirk's fate was uncertain. Rashida's heartbreak was unbearable, and the question echoed through the hospital halls. Would he make it through the night? While Kirk fought for his life in the hospital, outside the fallout had already begun. Jock, still seething with adrenaline, was dragged from the club in handcuffs. Flashbulbs from paparazzi lit up the street as police shoved him into the back of a squad car. He shouted protests, cursing at reporters, but his voice was drowned out by the chaos. Within minutes, news outlets blasted the headline, "Love and hip-hop star arrested after brutal club attack." At the station, Jock was booked for assault. His mugshot spread across social media within hours, sparking a storm of reactions. Some fans defended him, others condemned him, but all agreed this was the biggest scandal the show had ever seen. His bail was set high, but his team quickly posted it, securing his release. Yet freedom didn't erase the damage. The cameras followed as he walked out of jail, sunglasses hiding his eyes, but not his shame. Meanwhile, whispers began circulating about the motive. Insiders leaked claims of a failed business deal between Jock and Kirk, money lost, promises broken. Blogs ran with the story, painting Jock as a man pushed over the edge by betrayal. Whether true or not, the narrative caught fire. Hashtags trended, YouTube commentators speculated, and gossip pages spun theories by the hour. The entertainment industry reacted just as quickly. Sponsors tied to the show threatened to pull their deals, wary of being connected to such violence. Some clubs reportedly canceled Jock's bookings, while others distanced themselves from the entire cast. Production meetings turned frantic. Executives debated whether to suspend filming, cut Jock from future episodes, or lean into the controversy for ratings. Mona Scott-Young and the producers faced the toughest decision of their careers: protect the brand or capitalize on the drama. Cast members were divided. Some publicly supported Kirk and Rashida, calling for Jock to be held accountable. Others stayed quiet, fearing backlash or loss of business ties. Behind the scenes, friendships fractured as alliances shifted. The once tight-knit circle was unraveling in real time. The fallout extended far beyond television. Atlanta's nightlife scene buzzed with rumors, club promoters worried about violence, and community leaders criticized the glamorization of chaos. What happened at Club Eclipse wasn't just a storyline anymore. It was a legal case, a financial blow, and a cultural flashpoint. By the end of the week, one thing was certain. The attack had changed everything. Jock's arrest, Kirk's uncertain condition, Rashida's heartbreak, and the industry's scramble to respond created a storm no one could contain. And for fans watching, the question remained: what consequences would Jock face, and would the franchise ever recover? In the days following the attack, Atlanta's legal system moved quickly. Prosecutors wasted no time preparing charges against Jock, pulling witness statements, club surveillance footage, and social media clips that had already gone viral. The state made it clear they were pursuing aggravated assault, reckless endangerment, and potential battery charges. With Kirk still in the hospital recovering, the seriousness of the incident only amplified the urgency. But this wasn't just about criminal court. Behind closed doors, whispers emerged about civil lawsuits. Sources close to Rashida revealed she was in discussions with attorneys about filing for damages, medical bills, emotional distress, and potential lost income. If Jock thought posting bail was the end of his troubles, he was mistaken. The legal battles were only just beginning. At the same time, the internet turned into its own courtroom. Fans split into camps. Hashtags trended daily. Justice for Kirk versus tossed free Jock. Comment sections filled with heated debates. Some argued Jock snapped under betrayal and deserved empathy. Others insisted nothing justified such violence, demanding he be blacklisted from the industry. Twitter Spaces, Instagram Lives, and TikTok breakdowns dissected every angle, turning one night at Club Eclipse into a nationwide conversation about loyalty, ego, and accountability. Then came the leaks. Court documents found their way online, spreading like wildfire. Screenshots of alleged text exchanges hinted at Jock feeling provoked long before the attack. Another leak suggested Kirk had been warned about trouble brewing weeks earlier. These documents blurred the lines between fact and rumor, fueling speculation. Adding fuel to the fire were claims of witness intimidation. Several attendees at the club reportedly received anonymous messages urging them to stay quiet or forget what they saw. Prosecutors flagged the issue immediately, threatening additional charges if interference continued. This revelation painted the case as even more explosive. Not just a fight, but a battle spilling into darker territory. Media outlets capitalized. Morning shows debated the moral side, bloggers posted exclusive breakdowns, and mainstream headlines branded it the biggest scandal reality TV had ever faced. For VH1 producers, the footage was both a nightmare and a goldmine. Behind the scenes, executives fought over how much of the legal mess to show on camera. Was it exploitation or transparency? That debate alone became a story. The pressure on both sides mounted. Jock hired a high-profile attorney, known for defending celebrities in headline-making cases. The defense framed Kirk as partly responsible, suggesting his calmness was a form of disrespect that triggered the explosion. They painted Jock as a man pushed too far, not a monster. Meanwhile, the prosecution doubled down on painting him as reckless and violent, a danger who needed accountability. As weeks passed, the courtroom drama grew inevitable. Every filing, every leak, every viral clip raised the stakes higher. What began as a shocking fight had evolved into a full-blown legal saga, one that wasn't just about two men in a club. It was about reputation, money, justice, and the very future of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. Love and Hip Hop Atlanta.